Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you happen to be watching / listening to the next episode of the podcast with DeeJam and friends. And today I'm joined by Cam, who is a Sunderland fan. We're here to talk about Sunderland. I don't know how this is going to go. This could be either really, really depressing, or it could be the next, I don't know, big thing. I don't really know.
I think depressing's probably the right word.
Yes.
Then again, after yesterday's news, a little bit less depressing, but
definitely,
definitely,
we'll get into that in a moment. But before we do, just introduce yourself to my viewers, I guess. Just introduce yourself and what kind of things you do. What's your channel about? Just give yourself a bit of a cheeky plug before we kick off.
Perfect, mate. Cheers. Well, my name's Cam. On YouTube, it's CJ Media. Basically, I just do Football Manager content. I haven't been doing it that long. I started about a month ago, maybe I'd say. I've been on YouTube before when I was younger, doing other different kind of things, but I decided to come back to it. I watched a lot of Football Manager content and just kind of thought, well, people like, Dr. Benji Lelujo, people like that, and I thought, well, why not? Why can I not do that myself? So I started doing that. The first series on my channel is a Sir Alex Ferguson challenge.
Awesome.
Where I'm basically trying to mimic his achievements over the 25 years in the same amount of time on Football Manager. I'm with Everton for that save.
Nice.
And I also do a couple of different kind of experiment videos, which a lot of people are dabbling in at the minute.
Yeah.
I've just recently uploaded one where I put an England squad in the Premier League that's had the most amount of interest on my channel out of any video, and I found it really interesting to make, actually.
Nice.
So obviously I'm just looking to move on from there. I'll keep going with the Sir Alex Ferguson challenge for the rest of this year.
Yeah.
Just try and grow an audience, really. Just trying to be as consistent as possible and grow my channel.
Good man. Well, I'm glad to have you on. Obviously, you reached out to me a couple of days ago, and we talked about doing the Sunderland podcast. Because for those of you who don't know, you are a Sunderland fan, aren't you?
Unfortunately, I am. Yeah.
How long have you been supporting Sunderland for?
Sunderland since my first breath. Nice. I believe my dad was telling me that he had me in a queue to go and to buy some Sunderland tickets for a Sunderland game. I can't remember who were playing at around 2 months old.
Nice.
I was in his arms, so I was. I think I was always destined to be a Sunderland fan. It's been in my family since my great granddad. I think he's actually from Sunderland. I'm from more the Durham area, but it's just one of those things that I've unfortunately fallen into.
Yeah, I think a lot of fans. I think a lot of fans from around the country can sympathise with that. I mean, I've fell into being a Norwich fan. My dad's from the area. Took me to my first game at 5 years old, and you just kind of fall in love with that particular club.
That's the problem. You fall in love with them. I mean, everyone who's a big football fan remembers that first time walking into a stadium and you see all those people and it's just. I played for the club as well as a youth player.
Did you?
I played for Sunderland and Newcastle. I played for both of them from the age of about 7 until I was about 13, I think.
So you're pretty decent.
Played at both. I mean, I wasn't too bad. I've just got back from. I was playing in America at university. I've just got back from there. But so it wasn't even. It was as a 11, 12-year-old kid being a massive fan of the club, and then actually being in the club as well as a player was.
I can imagine that was amazing.
Incredible, because at the same time we used to play our games on Sundays for the academy.
Right.
So I had a season ticket, and we used to get day release on Fridays. So we used to get Fridays off school as like an 11-year-old kid to go and play football, which was just the best thing ever. But when we were there, we would see all of the first team players, and they would be there. So I think Roy Keane was manager at the time. He'd come in and be talking to us all at breakfast and stuff, and then you'd walk down the corridors and you'd see players like Jibril Cissé, who would be like coming up and talking to you, and it was just so surreal because then I was going and watching them with another like 49,000 people on a Saturday and watching them play. Yeah. And I was like, I was just talking to you yesterday. Like it was crazy. Yeah, really good experience.
That's mad. That is absolutely mad. So, I mean, before we jump into all of this, then I want to know a little bit more. So whereabouts are you at now? Then, like, what sort of level are you playing the game at now?
I was playing out in America. I was playing at university. I was on a scholarship out there.
Right.
And then I came back in around Christmas time, and I went on trial with Hartlepool.
Wow, really?
Yeah, so basically my plan was to go on trial there, and if nothing came from it, I'll go back to university here in September, rather than going back to America. So I went on trial, I was there for a couple of months, nothing came from it. Again, another good experience, great group of lads. It was really upsetting to see them drop out the Football League, actually, because obviously I know a lot of them really well from being there.
Yeah.
So that was quite upsetting, but I went from there, just started playing a little bit more local, like semi-professional football. But a couple of weeks ago, I broke my leg, so I'm not playing anywhere at the moment currently, and just trying to make sure I'm back fit for the start of next season. That's the plan. Anyway.
That's guttering. That's horrible.
Yeah. I mean, the funny thing was, it wasn't so much playing. It wasn't playing like Saturday, the highest level of football. I was playing where I did it. Basically, I'm a goalkeeper, so coming back in and trying to get yourself into a side in around like March time, which is when things ended with Hartlepool, was quite difficult.
Yeah.
So I never really managed to get establish myself a spot really for the back end of the season.
Yeah.
But I was still just playing on a Sunday outfield with my mates, just kind of enjoying myself, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And we had a cup semi-final a couple of weeks ago. And I just scored before I did it as well, and I went in for a 50-50 tackle with this lad, and I just want to make clear that I won the 50-50 and I won the ball, but at the expense of my leg, and I came out of it with a broken leg. Yeah, but I mean, I didn't know I'd broken it at the time. To be honest with you, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't one of those ones where it's hanging off.
Right.
I went in for the tackle. We both hit the ball at the same time.
Yeah.
And I felt my ankle go back, and I went on the floor, and I was like, this is more painful than I've experienced, like sprained ankles, stuff like that before.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, no, this is something a little bit more. But so I went off, but I walked back to the changing rooms, and the changing rooms were quite far away. So I walked back to the changing rooms, was walking around all night. I got home, and I was like, I just doesn't feel right. And I woke up the next morning, I couldn't even step on it. I was hopping around the house. Oh. So I got my dad to run me up to the hospital, got an X-ray on it, and I had a broken leg. So.
Wow.
But it means I missed the cup final, which is probably the most upsetting thing. It's also on my birthday as well. So.
Oh God, this story.
Oh, it's dramatic. I know you could make a film about it, couldn't you?
Yeah, screw the Jamie Vardy story. You can make a story out of this, couldn't you?
Let's make a story about my broken leg.
Oh, well, mate, I wish you a speedy recovery, and I hope.
Thanks, mate. I appreciate that.
I hope you can get it, things back on track, and try and find a club.
Fingers crossed, mate. That's the plan, hopefully.
Soon. So I wish you all the best with that. But wow.
It took a bit of an unexpected turn at the start of the podcast.
Yeah,
didn't it?
I know, but I suppose this is what it's all about, really. But
True enough, yeah.
I mean, moving on to Sunderland. Obviously, we're recording this on the Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
Last night, the announcement was made that David Moyes has been sacked. So all of the notes and all of the preparation and all the stuff I sent through to you was just gone. And I've ripped up all my notes. We have to talk about this. We have to talk about this to begin with. I mean, are you... Because, I mean, from the outside looking in, it's one of those things where you think he's got a good reputation within the game. Yes, he struggled over the last couple of years. He was promised money that never really materialised, and he inherited a very, very bad squad.
I mean, I think if you're going to look at the issues with Moyes at Sunderland, I think if you're looking at Moyes as a whole, the first problem he ever had was going to Manchester United. Yeah. I mean, obviously, you can see that from the outset now, but I even remember saying at the time, Man United was a poison chalice, because Ferguson had left the worst squad that he'd had at that club for 10 years easily.
Yeah.
The worst squad. And there was no way you could improve. There's nothing you could do better. If you went and won the Premier League and won the FA Cup, then it was just expected. And if you didn't, then you were a failure. So he was always destined to fail at that job. But more in terms of what happened with him at Sunderland.
Yeah.
I think Sunderland we were set going into the start of this season with Sam Allardyce.
Yes.
And the feeling around the club was good. Everyone knew what was going on. Everyone was like in good spirits.
Yeah.
And then the way that England handled the appointment of Sam Allardyce was, as a Sunderland fan and towards Sunderland, was just a bit disgraceful, really. It left the club in an awful position. It wasn't something that they did very quickly. They dragged it out over a couple of weeks, especially at a vital time in the transfer window.
Yeah.
When we couldn't sign any players because, I mean, I'm not a businessman, but you're not going to give money to a guy to sign players who he wants when, as far as you know, he might be leaving in 2 weeks. And
yeah, exactly.
So Moyes did come in under not the best set of circumstances, but I do think the way that he handled stuff, he could have handled it a lot better.
Right.
I think he was negative from the outset.
Yeah.
He was constantly, we were in a relegation battle from day one in the Premier League, and it's not as if he came in the January the same way that Allardyce had done the season before. And if Allardyce had took us down that season, you could argue, well, he's inherited this side in January, like he hasn't had a lot of time to work with them.
Yeah.
He had a full season to work with these players and to bring in players of his own, which he did. He did bring in Djilabodji from Chelsea. I mean, we spent £8 million on a centre-back who had zero Premier League experience, which I still think you've got to question because, okay, you might say, well, we didn't have the funds of other clubs, but if you're going to go and spend £8 million on a centre-back, do you really want a centre-back with who hasn't played in the Premier League?
Yeah, I mean, £8 million is a lot to be spending on a defender.
Of course it is, and if you're going to do that, you want to be spending on quality as well, like, and not just someone who you're looking at for the future. Don't get me wrong, he isn't necessarily a bad centre half, but it's just not somewhere you'd think you would go and spend the majority of your funds. I mean, we also signed Didier Ndong, who's our record transfer, 15 million,
right?
Who I'd never heard of. Like, it's not very often you get a record transfer and you go, oh, hold on, who's this kid? I'm going to have to go and actually research who he is. As a pretty big Sunderland fan and a pretty big football fan in general, I'd have expected myself to at least have heard of a player who we're going to spend that kind of money on.
Yeah.
And from that point on, things just kind of got worse. You obviously have players like Lamina Kone, who wanted to go to Everton in the transfer window and never went.
Yeah. And
then started basically almost acting up. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but there's a clip where we were on Sky and Jamie Carragher kind of broke down Kone's play. And honestly, it was ridiculous. He was just everything was just about how lazy he was, how it wasn't that he couldn't do it, it was just that he didn't want to do it. And he made a great point and a great example of him. And yeah, I think the mood around the club was just really, really negative.
Yeah.
So
all of that is factored into what has ultimately happened with you guys getting relegated. Because
100%.
It's one of the lowest points tallies that the Premier League has seen. I think only Derby have had a worse record than that.
Yeah, I mean, we were bad this year. It was very, very similar to how Aston Villa were last year.
Yeah.
Where it wasn't even the squad, just the players, the squad, the performances just weren't anywhere near a Premier League standard.
No.
Not even close. And it's a frustrating thing to watch as a fan, because one of the other frustrating things is that if I'm not sure if you know this, but our under-23 side just played in the final of the European under-23s competition.
I didn't know that. No.
So I mean, they got beat 5-0 off Porto, but obviously they had to play some good teams to get there.
Yeah. And
you're looking at the success of our under-23 side, which has had a relatively constant flow of success. But then none of them were given an opportunity in the first team.
Yeah.
Which is frustrating because it couldn't have really gone much worse.
No.
So I don't understand why you couldn't go and... There's a young Swedish lad who plays who's called Joe Lasoro, who's a striker who's everyone's ranting and raving about. I think he's only 17, 18.
Right.
But I went to watch us play Burnley in the FA Cup third round. It was 0-0. The game was 0-0. The most boring game I think I've ever seen in my life. We just had the regular first team out. Obviously, Burnley weren't performing well away from home.
No.
So they came out and went, right, we're going to go and get ourselves... We're going to go back to Turf Moor and we'll play them there.
Yeah.
And David Moyes, this is when my frustration really hit the peak with him.
Yeah.
He had I think he had 3 or 4 of the under-23s players on the bench.
Right. Yeah.
And there was just no energy in our side. There was no desire, no anything. And he made one substitution in like the 81st minute, and the player he brought on was John O'Shea.
Oh, God.
And you sat there thinking, well, hold on, we have no attacking flair, we've got no passion, there's no desire to go forwards.
Yeah.
Why aren't you bringing one of the young 17-year-old hungry strikers on just to run around? Because the thing is, at Sunderland, the fans understand that we're not going to be a top half club. We're going to be a lower mid-table relegation battle club, and we understand that.
Yeah.
And we understand that we will go down and we'll come back up and we'll yo-yo. There's a similar way that obviously you understand with Norwich that you're probably not going to the fact that we've stayed in the Premier League for 10 years is
remarkable.
It is remarkable considering. I mean, geographically, we're obviously not in the best location. If you're not from the northeast, not many people want to come and live in the northeast because there's not that much going on. It's not really like a hub for a celebrity kind of lifestyle which footballers want these days.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
but we understand that, but all the fans want to see is that desire and passion. Duncan Watmore has got one of the best receptions from the Sunderland fans, and he's nowhere near one of the better players. But he goes out on the field for 90 minutes, and he runs and he puts effort in, and he's just constantly on the move, and you can see that passion and that desire and that effort to want to perform, not necessarily being good enough to perform at the Premier League level, but that desire, and that's all that Sunderland fans want to see.
Yeah. But no, that's fair enough. I mean, obviously, the one thing you mentioned at the beginning, obviously Allardyce was there, then the whole England saga happened. Yeah. Do you think that Allardyce could have got any more out of the team than what Moyes could have done?
100%. I definitely do think that, because I think that same squad of players kept us up the season before.
Yeah.
We didn't lose many. We didn't. Nothing changed that much, but they were playing for Allardyce. I mean,
yeah.
One of the big things that I think would have been different. I think if Allardyce had stayed, Yunus Kabul would have stayed.
Yeah.
And he was solid at the back for us last year. I mean, and the reason that he did leave the club was due to issues with an illness with his son, where he wanted to be in London for the hospital treatment and stuff like that, which obviously you can totally understand. There's a lot more important things than football when it comes to things like that.
Yeah.
But I think under Allardyce, there would have been something worked out where he would have stayed with the club and maybe even lived in London, or would have travelled or something. I think that players like him, I mean, Defoe, Kone, the players who were very much passion players and live off that passion, were enthused by Allardyce, and he made them feel 10 foot tall. Yeah, he got that extra bit out of them, and I remember, because I do know a couple of the lads who were in the under 23 squad at Sunderland from when I played there. And I remember speaking with one of them when we first hired Moyes, who I was happy to appoint at the very beginning. It was when we appointed him, I was going, hey, that's a good appointment. There's definitely a lot worse managers we could have had. Yeah. And I remember talking to him, and I said, oh, what's the difference between him and Allardyce? And he was just kind of like, everything's a lot more strict and a lot more by the book, and everyone has to follow the same kind of protocol.
Right. Okay.
Whereas I don't think you can run a football club like that, because the players these days, and it's unfortunate, but they are prima donnas, and they do need to have their egos massaged.
Yeah.
For them to perform, and you can't treat two players in the same way, because players respond differently. As a player, I was the type of player who I needed someone to get on me back if I wasn't playing well and tell me, like, hey, you're not performing well enough, you're not good enough at the moment, you've got to step up your game. But I've played with lads who, if you did that to them, they wouldn't show up for the rest of the game.
Yeah, they're
lads who need an arm around them and going, hey, you're all right, you don't worry about it, you're fine, your chances are going to come, you're going to score goals, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And I just think there was just zero man management came from him with the players in our squad.
Yeah, it's I mean, again, obviously, he's now gone. You've been, by the sounds of it, you sound really happy about it.
Yeah.
Was he let down in the January as well, in terms of what kind of resource could then be available to him? Because it kind of almost sounded as if, like, the only options he had were free transfers, and with that being the case, it was very much like the Aston Villa situation. It was almost an acceptance of, we're gonna go down.
Yeah,
because the only type of players he could bring in were the likes of Jovian Lescott. And I mean, that kind of signing doesn't exactly fill you with any confidence, does it? I mean, was he let down, or was it all his fault, his tactics, his selection?
I wouldn't know. I mean, 100%. You can't just look at him, because you've got to look at the carousel of managers that we've had before him as well.
Yeah.
But I think that the issue we had definitely this season in comparison to other seasons is that Ella Short, the owner, wants to sell the club. He doesn't want to own the club anymore.
Right. Okay.
And again, coming from a strictly business thinking point of view, if I'm trying to sell something and I don't want to own it, I'm not going to invest. No. Obviously, it's better for him that if the side's in the Premier League, because it has more value then. But you're not going to go and hand over millions of pounds to a club that you want to sell, and that's the reason that Moyes was never sacked, because we had him on a 4-year contract. So if you sack him, you've got to pay him out of that contract. And that investment wasn't going to come into the club this season, which is why I think if it had been in previous seasons, we saw managers performing that badly who were sacked, like the likes of Paulo Di Canio or Gus Poyet, who was sacked for being in similar positions. But I think one of the issues that Sunderland have had, a massive issue, is the way that the club's been run, because it hasn't been run in a smart fashion at all. A prime example of this, so there's a clause in Jermaine Defoe's contract, who's probably one of our only assets that we could actually get a little bit of money for. I know he is old. The clause in his contract that if Sunderland get relegated, he gets to leave the club on a free.
A free?
Yeah, so it'll happen this week. He'll go to Bournemouth I think it's Bournemouth he's going to on a free transfer. So we're not going to get any money for Jermaine Defoe.
That's disgusting.
It's just bad business, isn't it? It's just not common sense. And the same fold, putting David Moyes on a 4-year contract with no kind of clause in it if we get relegated, so that if you do want to sack him, you're going to have to pay him out of a 4-year contract.
I think putting him on a 4-year deal when you've gone through the turnover of managers you have is a very, very stupid thing to do, and regardless of whether or not he gets relegated or not. The fact that you've gone through your list of managers that you have done, and then to turn around and say, actually, you know what, 4 years, because the compensation deal that he could have got if he decided to stay on, if he could have been rolling in there. Oh,
of course he could have been, and at the expense of the club as well. And that's the fact that just proves how bad our business is that we are in the top 10 clubs for the highest debt in Europe. And
jeez.
And what do we have to show for that? We got to the League Cup final about 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And we've been in the Premier League for 10 years, just avoiding relegation for 10 years as well. I think our highest finish was about 12th under Steve Bruce.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to plunge a club into that much debt with bad business, you expect results. If you're going, I mean, the other issue that we do have, which I have just touched upon, is our location, because players don't want to move to the northeast.
Yeah.
So you do have to offer that extra incentive in wages, which you've got to, because I think if you went and asked a player while we were still in the Premier League, would you rather play for Sunderland or QPR, who were in the Championship? I think most of them would say QPR, because I'm living in London, I'm in central London.
Yeah.
The lifestyle around football is there, whereas there isn't that lifestyle in the northeast. And there's a big debate going on, definitely up here now, I'm not sure if it's made it around the country in terms of the news, but both Sunderland and Newcastle are talking about moving their training grounds down to the south of England. So
really?
So basing the club in the south of England and then travelling back to the northeast to play their games, just to allow them to attract players who want to live in the south of England or want to live in London and that kind of area.
Christ, that's mad.
I mean, it is crazy, really, isn't it?
I mean, I could never imagine Norwich doing anything like that.
No, but the thing you have in Norwich is it's not like it's next to London, but it's not that much. Like if a player wants to drive down to London from playing for Sunderland or Newcastle or even Middlesbrough, it's a 4 or 5 hour journey, you know.
Yeah.
And
it's I get that. That's because it's the thing. I mean, around. I don't want to touch too much on Norwich in this particular podcast, but with around our area, it is unbelievably quiet. There, you've got Norwich, which has its moments, but the rest of Norfolk is just unbelievably quiet. And if you've got a family, it's the ultimate place to be able to bring people up, and that's why a lot of our former players, like Dean Ashtons, the Brian Gunns, the Huckabees, they all stay around. All of their families stay in Norfolk. And that's why every single one of them is an ambassador of our club, because we've got to give them a job of some kind.
Oh yeah, no, exactly. But I mean, it's a place I've been just on holidays before and visited, and it's a nice area. But the issue is that the northeast isn't. And being bluntly honest, if you're not from here, and it is full of friendly people, but there's some areas of the northeast that are awful places, and it's not somewhere, like, again, I keep making the point, but if you're not from the northeast, you don't like it here, you don't want to live here, you don't want to, it's...
No,
I mean, players get here and they see the passion, because as much as it hurts me to involve Newcastle in this as well, but you look at our two clubs, and as I said, between us in this century, we have one cup final. We made the League Cup final 4 years ago, and that's about it. Obviously, Newcastle had the Keegan era where they finished second in the Premier League and performed. But yet, week in, week out, Newcastle have 52,000 fans in their stadium, and we have 49,000 in ours.
Yeah.
And so we're always in the top. When both clubs are in the Premier League together, we're in the top 6 or 7 highest attendances in the league.
Yeah.
And the passion and football's everything up here.
Yeah, it is.
It's absolutely everything, and it's, again, as you see, players like Defoe and Kabul were filled with that last season. They got filled with that passion for the club and how much it means to the fans. But again, looking from the outset, it's just on such a limb, and it's not a prosperous area. So as a rich person who's earning a lot of money for the work that they do, you don't really want to live here.
No. So I mean, I did, one of the questions I preempted before the announcement was made about the reason why you've never been able to take that next step and become like a Southampton, like a Stoke, like Fulham were many years ago before they got relegated. Just a solid Premier League team, because you were in there for a long time. I mean, is that one of the contributing factors as to why you've never been able to make that next step? I definitely think so. I think it's probably the main one, to be honest with you. Yeah.
If you go and look at the clubs who've made the step from where we were to like you said, to those kind of levels, to the levels of Southampton, the way Fulham were, Everton, Tottenham have done that. I remember in my lifetime Tottenham being a club in and around us, down at the bottom of the table.
Yeah,
and
true.
There's two main things. I think number one is, obviously, I've already spoke about the area that we are and the fact that players don't want to come here.
Yeah.
And obviously number two is the investment, because we've never really had that major investment. But again, I think that's because you look at where the club is and you go, I don't really want to invest in that kind of club in that area. I'd rather be down the south with a club like Southampton.
Yeah.
Or again, when Moyes was at Everton and they built up a strong force, because it's places where people want to go.
Yeah, it's business opportunities other than just the football club.
Of course, but I mean, even if you're looking at it as like you as a Norwich fan, or if anyone really, if you go and travel to away games, you go and like, oh well, we're travelling here, it's a couple of hours, here's a couple of, and then all of a sudden you get Sunderland away and you're going, oh well, it's a 7-hour journey on the bus, and it's just a trek for, and it's not like you're going all the way there to watch the best footballers in the Premier League, or to go and like be entertained by a good, it's going to be a scrappy game where if you're a good side, we're going to sit 11 players behind the ball and try and just hold on to a 0-0 draw.
Yeah. And
if you're a side similar to us, it's not going to be the highest quality of football, it's going to be a scrappy game. So I can understand why people get frustrated about coming up here and don't want to come up here, and it does make sense. So but obviously it doesn't affect the fact that it's your club and you want to go and succeed and you want to move on, and
So I mean, you touched upon obviously the owner's intentions are clear that he wants to sell. I mean, has he made any announcement obviously after the sacking yesterday? I didn't read the statement, but has he said anything about what the investment is now going to be like? Has he said, is there any rumours about possible takeovers, or is it literally just a case of the club is up for sale but there is no one biting?
Yeah, it's pretty much that he doesn't want the club anymore. He hasn't released any kind of statement after yesterday, because obviously it was a resignation, so he hasn't had to pay out any money, and it was basically the club released a statement of David Moyes has left the club, the basic one you get when a manager leaves the club.
We wish him all the best, blah, blah, blah.
But he hasn't made any clear intentions of a plan for where the club's going or what is going to happen with it. I mean, ideally, if you've got someone running your football club who doesn't really want to be running your football club, you'd rather they were gone as soon as possible.
Yeah, definitely.
But again, it's not easy to go and sell an asset that's worth multi-million pounds and has a huge debt as well, because that's one of our issues, is who's going to want to take on that debt that we have as a club.
Yeah.
And there's not many people who would want to take on that debt at all, really.
So I mean, he's now got a responsibility then, that he has to make the right choices now to get you back up to the Premier League as soon as you can. Because by the sounds, because one of my questions again was going to be, can you afford to have a season in the Championship where you are just saying, right, we need a complete clear out, let's rebuild, and whatever happens, and then we'll push on from there. But by the sounds of things, you need to make an immediate return to the Premier League.
On a financial level, we need to return instantly. I mean, I can't see it happening. I don't think we'll come straight back up. I don't think we have the players. It's a different. One of the points that I made, and if you go and look at Newcastle's squad this season, and then look at what it will be at the start of next season, it's a different squad, a completely different squad that gets you out the Championship to one that keeps you in the Premier League. Very, very different squad, because they're two totally different leagues, which you'll obviously understand as a Norwich fan, having recently
100%.
been in both.
100%.
It's a totally different style of football and way of playing. It's a lot more physical.
Yeah, we've tried to play our way out of the league this year, and we have been bullied massively. Our home form is the best in the Championship. Goal scoring records, we've broke every single record that we've ever had in our history for home record. But away from home, we have lost to Rotherham, to Burton. We've struggled against teams like Preston. We drew against Bristol City away. All of these bang average Championship teams we have struggled against because physically we cannot cope with it. I think that's possibly something you might have in your favour, though, because if you look at some of the players, we don't know who's going to stay, but if John O'Shea stays around or if Les Scott stays around, you would think they would have the physicality to be able to cope.
You would assume, though, you would assume that they would, players like that. But if you had asked me our personal opinion of what I would want to happen is I'd rather that we shipped out players like O'Shea and this older generation of players. And ideally what I'd like to see is a young manager come in who's willing to use the quality youth facilities that we have and the quality youth players that we have, as well as bringing in other young players.
Right.
And even if it does mean that we spend 3 or 4 years in the Championship, build a squad and I want someone to be given the time at our club to build a team and in their own vision and to allow us to have that little bit of success, allow us to be successful with the young. I mean, if you ask me who I want to come in as manager at this moment in time, I'd probably say Kevin Phillips.
Wow, okay, that's a bold move.
Yeah, and I agree that it would be, because he hasn't held a managerial job. Obviously, he was assistant at Leicester. He's currently assistant at Derby. Yeah, he's currently assistant manager at Derby. And the fans would love it because he's an absolute hero at Sunderland. He's in the last 20 years, he's the best player we've had by an absolute country mile.
Yeah,
and I think he'll probably be looking for that step into management. I mean, another name that I've heard thrown in the ring that I wouldn't complain if he came either was Ryan Giggs. He's up there with the favourites, and
I mean, I'm currently looking at the list of managers as we speak. I'm on a betting site looking at it. The favourite at the moment is Nigel Pearson,
which I really, really wouldn't want.
I
think that's just keeping us in this loop of having managers that are just in and out. He's just another one of those
negative managers.
Yeah,
negative style.
And
you've got Nigel Pearson, Kevin Phillips is the second favourite.
Yeah.
Roy Keane
to come back
is third favourite, which I think, in all honesty, would be the complete wrong move to appoint that bloke again. And then you've got Aitor Karanka. Obviously, he's available, possibly. But the problem with Aitor Karanka is that if you crack his first way of playing, he doesn't have a plan B.
Yeah, there's no plan B. You saw that when Middlesbrough went half the season nearly without even scoring.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is my issue, that if you go and look at that top 4 list of managers, Pearson, Karanka and Keane have all failed in the Premier League already. So but on the same note, all 3 of them have got teams out of the Championship. So it's the Sunderland way of looking for a quick fix, of going, right, these 3 managers have got out the Championship before, let's just hire one of them and they'll get us out the Championship again. Whereas I'd rather go, right, bring Kevin Phillips in. He might not get us out the Championship the first time of asking, but give him time, allow him to build a squad, allow him to get players into play a system that he wants to play.
Yeah.
And build. So, like, look at Southampton, who we just talked about before, who were down in League One. with like Ricky Lambert, the likes of Ricky Lambert there at that point. But what they did was they built their squad and they moved their way up and they built and now look at them.
Yeah,
it's
true.
Yeah, I'm frustrated with the club constantly looking for quick fixes and wanting just everything to be good for the rest of this season.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you want Kevin Phillips. Who do you realistically think is actually going to be put in charge? Do you think it is going to be Pearson? Or is there anybody that, you know... my worry is that it's going to be looked at as a quick fix. We're going to go and look at, right, who's taken a club out of the Championship before? Yeah.
And probably go for one of those three out of Keane, Karanka and Pearson.
Yeah.
But obviously there's still just a part of me that's holding on to I really want Phillips to come in as our manager. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at the list on here, and I think one name that would be absolutely fantastic is Jokanovic.
Yeah.
From Fulham. If I could pick my Norwich manager right now,
you'd go for him.
Because we're currently in a position where we have no idea who's going to be our head coach. There's rumours flying around. He is a fantastic name, but I have seen on the list as well, 25-1 is Alex Neil.
Yeah.
Do you want him?
I wouldn't put it past Sunderland, you know. I genuinely wouldn't put it past us. But I mean, back to Fulham, the way that they've played the back end of this season.
Yeah.
They were tipped as my favourites to go up through the playoffs.
Yeah, I said the same.
The form that they came into in the back end of the season was absolutely ridiculous, and
yeah,
but it's one of those things where you're looking. I remember when we hired Martin O'Neill as manager. That's a while ago now, but Mark Hughes. It was between him and Mark Hughes were the two favourites for Sunderland manager, and I can remember being sat there going, I don't want Mark Hughes, I just don't want Mark Hughes as manager, I wouldn't want him at the club, I don't really like, and then go and look at the side that he's built at Stoke. So, I mean, it shows how much I know, really, but, like...
Well, that's the thing, I mean, Stoke fans are not happy with him. They can't stand him now, because they're now in that bracket of the likes of Sunderland... of Southampton rather, who are now fed up of just having mid-table football. They now want to push on. Yeah, and they don't like Mark Hughes.
It just doesn't make sense to me. It's the same way that I see every time I see Arsenal fans complaining about finishing fourth every season and this season finishing fifth. I was just thinking, I'll tell you what, I would swap your last 20 years for our last 20 years, even last 10 years.
I think that's the thing with football fans. We all live within our own bubble of our own club.
We do,
and we've been complaining for the last year, you know, this is absolutely disgusting. How are we not going to be finishing in the playoffs of the Championship? Why is the club not doing this? Why are we not investing? And I mean, all my mates, because I live right next to Ipswich, all my mates are Ipswich fans, and they're turning around to me and just going, you really don't know how lucky you are to have the calibre of players that you do, the setup that you have at your club. You really don't know how lucky you are. And like I said, we all live in our own bubble, and Arsenal fans are no different. They all think, well,
that's true,
you know, we're fed up of finishing fourth. But
I mean, we do all have
now.
that, like you say, have that bubble that we live in, and that we. But again, I was happy with Sunderland over the period of 10 years where we stayed in the Premier League, and most seasons we did just stay in the Premier League. But I think that I understood that probably that's as you say, if you look into our bubble, that's probably us right at the top of our bubble, because we're going to struggle to break into the higher realms of success than that. So I mean, the only thing that you could really ask for a club such as ours is a cup win. Because obviously you're not going to win the Premier League. I mean, Leicester did kind of throw that one out the water, but you're not going to win the Premier League.
No.
But then again, I see us going to cup competitions every year and just not target them. If I was Sunderland manager, I'd be looking. Sunderland won the FA Cup in 1973, and bear in mind, I was born in 1997, so we're talking 24 years before I was born.
God, that makes me feel old.
Yeah, I've watched that game. At least 10 times. And I can, you know, and the players are in great. There's a statue of Bob Stokoe outside of Sunderland, the only manager who has a statue outside of the stadium alive. And the season that we won the FA Cup. We were in what is now the Championship.
Yeah.
And he never got us out of the Championship. He was our manager during our time in the Championship, but just because he won that cup competition, there's a statue of him outside of our ground, and all of the players return every year, seen as heroes, and it just, if you want to become a legend at our club or become immortal at a club like Sunderland, all you've got to do is go and win a cup competition. Yet managers year after year fail to target them.
Yeah, it's. I mean, in recent years, obviously you've had Swansea win the League Cup, you've had Wigan win the FA Cup, so the opportunity is there.
Of course it is.
And I'm 100% agree with you, because we had a major opportunity a few years back when we were in the quarterfinals of the League Cup. We were home. We were home against Aston Villa. Paul Lambert came back, and we all know what would happen, and it did happen because we played a weakened team because it's a League Cup, and we got knocked out. And I completely agree. Our clubs, and I'm putting Norwich in that bracket of Sunderland.
100%. It is. There's that bracket of clubs around the bottom 5 of the Premier League and probably the top half of the Championship.
Yeah, we need to be pushing for those competitions.
They're our competitions. They're the competitions that the big clubs go and put out their under-23s team until it gets to like the semi-finals, and then they're like, oh, hold on, we could win something here. Let's get the big boys out. So they've got to be the type of things you look to target as a club like ours. I mean, I've never seen us win a trophy. I've seen us get to one cup final. And I mean, when we got to the League Cup final, when we played Manchester United in the semi-final.
Yeah.
I was at the home and away leg. We won at Old Trafford on penalties.
Yes, I
after 2 goals in extra time. Worst penalty shootout I think I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, that was horrific.
And it was the happiest day of my life as a Sunderland fan. I remember we bunked off school to go. We travelled down that day. We got back to the northeast about 5 o'clock in the morning, and me and the other lad that I went with were sat in class at like 9 o'clock in the morning, but on about 2 hours sleep, still just buzzing, just absolutely couldn't believe what had happened.
Yeah,
it was. I saw Sunderland fans crying, it was, and I mean we got absolutely destroyed in the final by Man City, but.
Just to say you got there.
Just to say we were there, and the roller coaster of emotions to get there and to go and play at Wembley.
That's what it's all about. That is what it's all about. So you've mentioned who you'd like as manager. Sunderland, if anybody from Sunderland official is listening to this, we want Kevin Phillips.
Yeah, super Kev, bring him back.
Bring back the legend. Players out. What type of players do you want to see go? What type of players do you want to stay? What players need to have a team built around them next year? Realistically, Defoe's gone.
Realistically, Defoe's gone on a free because of the club's business. I think if you're going to look at players who are realistically going to leave, Lamina Kone will go. He'll go to another Premier League side.
Yeah.
I mean, Everton were interested in him. He'll end up going somewhere like that. Jordan Pickford, there's no way we can hold on to him because he's one of the best goalkeepers in the Premier League, age 23, English. If he wants to be breaking into the England squad, which he does now, because that goalkeeper position in the England squad is so up for grabs with the way that Hart's been performing at Torino and the way things are going with England, so he has to be playing in the Premier League. So there's no way that he can stay.
30 million is a big price tag though, because obviously that's what David Moyes says, and he's not there anymore. But that's a hell of a price tag. It
is a hell of a price tag, but it's also. I mean, if you go and break down what he is, he's a 23-year-old English international, which the words English international basically add an extra 8 or 9 million on your price tag, no matter who you are, because there's that desire of having the quality English players.
Yeah.
He's 23, he has so much potential, and his distribution, and also the way that money's been thrown around. This Musa Sissoko went for 30 million last transfer, in the summer.
I suppose when you say it like that.
Yeah, that, and he's god awful. I mean, he's played for Tottenham about 3 times this year.
So I think with an outfield player, if you can get 5 or 6 years out of him, that's a good job. But with goalkeepers, if you're thinking he's obviously 23, 10 years divided 30 million, that's what, 3 million a year.
Yeah, exactly. Brad Friedel was playing in the Premier League until he was 43 at Tottenham as a player coach. I mean, if as a goalkeeper, if you look after yourself right, and you don't even have to look after yourself as well as the outfield players do, but you can play until you're 38, 39 and still play at a high level as well, not just be... Because the best thing you have as a goalkeeper is you don't really lose that yard of pace that used to get you past the fullback, or it's a lot more about experience and mental strength and capability, which only gets better with age.
That's it.
But yeah, I mean, if he does go, we do want to get a huge price tag off him. We need to use the money that we get from him to build our squad.
Because I mean, would you be happy then if Mannone was your number one in the championship?
100%. I think Mannone would be a very, very good championship goalkeeper.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, he's not a bad. Again, for the type of club we were in the Premier League, he was probably a good enough goalkeeper for us.
Oh, but yeah, I mean, you see some of the...
Pickford was just different level.
You see some of the saves that Mannone makes. He is a very, very good goalkeeper.
He is
I mean,
very good
if we ever got promoted, I'd snap him up.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He's that upper Championship, lower Premier League level goalkeeper. He's definitely good enough. I don't think we would need to look to strengthen in that department at all. If we did sell Pickford.
No.
I mean, we do have a lot of players who I think are built for the Championship. People like Billy Jones, Jack Rodwell, Darren Gibson are probably all solid Championship players. Yeah. I'd want to get rid of Fabio Borini because I mean, the way he's gone on is just
send him back to Italy. Just pack him off.
Get rid of him wherever. Get anywhere.
Yeah.
I seriously want to get rid of him. And Nietzsche would be another good Championship player, I think, with the size of him and his strength as a Championship centre forward.
If he can remain injury free.
That's the problem you've got with him if he doesn't get injured.
He is the Cameron Jerome. He is good enough for the Championship, but he's not quite good enough for the Premier League. So I agree with that.
But I think we've got, like you say, there's a lot of work need to be done, but I think we need to do it in the right way. We need if we're looking to get promoted straight back to the Premier League, and that's the number one goal because of the financial issues or because of anything, then you've got to look to build a squad to get you out of the Championship, and then have a total revamp in the summer if you do get out of the Championship, and then get your Premier League squad back together.
Yeah.
Or if we're looking to bring in a manager like Phillips and build a club and build something that's a project almost is going to be hopefully strong and stable in the Premier League, then we've got to look to sign a little bit more of a higher quality of player.
It's difficult because we obviously think of it as in, we need to rebuild, we need to do this, do that. Chairman and people at the top
don't worry about the money.
Yeah, we'll think about, right, we need to do this in the quickest way possible, in the cheapest way possible. So let's go after Nigel Pearson, and he will know the type of players he needs to bring in. And,
of course he will.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because we all, I mean, if you talk to any Ipswich fan, they will say to you, now we're at the point of no return. We need to change how we are done as a club, and build a youth team. Mm-hmm. But they're scared shitless that they're going to get relegated.
Yeah,
and they're not prepared to take that risk and get rid of Mick McCarthy, and it's like that for a lot of clubs up and down the country. Of
course it is. Yeah, there's a big, but again, I think there's a big difference between the effects of being relegated into League One than there is of the effects of being relegated into the Championship.
Yeah,
I think if you go and go down into League One, that is where clubs can, like what happened with Blackpool. And things like that can easily happen because a lot of funding pulls out a lot of sponsorship money. Basically, again, the problem we have now is that money drives football.
Yeah.
And with the new television deal, all of the money is in the Premier League.
Yep.
And that's where everything is, and which is why clubs want to spend as little time as possible outside of the Premier League.
Yeah.
Because if you spend more than the 3 years where you're getting your parachute payments from the Premier League in the Championship, then you're probably going to struggle to get back up.
Yeah.
It's
happened to so many teams, hasn't it?
Of course it has. You go and look at the top of the Championship now. There's a lot of previously established Premier League clubs like Fulham who have been stuck there. Middlesbrough was stuck there for ages. Middlesbrough were down in the Championship for like 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, they were.
After previously being an established Premier League club. I mean, a club that won the European Championship.
Yeah.
So
it's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it's a worry, but again, you don't just want to sit there and see that carousel of managers coming in and out and getting a new manager every season. And
no, I think that's the thing. If your owner's not prepared to invest that type of money, which by the sounds of things he probably won't, if he's not prepared to do that, then the youth and the project over the next 3 or 4 years sounds like probably. It sounds
like the most cost-effective option. Obviously, if you bring Kevin Phillips in his first managerial job, in comparison to the other three, you're probably going to get him for less money because you've got the point of, well, you're not proven yet. We don't know how you're going to perform. Yeah. And like you said, if we use the youth setup that we have, I mean, the youth setup that brought through Jordan Henderson, Jordan Pickford, some good players have come out of the youth facility that we have.
Yep.
But again, the problem is that when we have exceptional youth players, such as the two I've just mentioned, they're not there for long.
No.
And rightfully so as well, because if you're a young talent looking at Sunderland, you know that you're not going to get in the England squad because, again, being a Sunderland, even when we're in the Premier League, if you go and look at the list of players that we've had, Kevin Phillips, who was consistently in the top 3 scorers in the Premier League while he was at Sunderland, made a handful of appearances for England, hardly made any appearances for England.
True.
You've got Darren Bent was told to leave Sunderland to go to Aston Villa if he wanted to be in the England squad.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that didn't go too well for him, but that's what he was told to do.
Yeah.
You've got Southgate coming out. Gareth Southgate came out before we were confirmed relegated. I mean, we basically were confirmed relegated, but before anything was official, and said if Jermaine wants to be in the England squad and go into the next major tournament, then he has to be playing in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Which is a way of saying in the press, listen, if you're still at Sunderland, you're not going to get in the England squad.
Yeah.
It's so if you're a young English player and you break through at Sunderland, you're going, I don't want to be here long.
Yeah.
I need to get out of here if I want to. The amount of Henderson with England, Henderson wouldn't have made anywhere near the amount of appearances he has for England if he'd stayed at Sunderland.
Yeah.
He'd have played more football because in his first year or two at Liverpool, he wasn't that much of a regular in the first team.
No, he wasn't.
But there's no way that he would have made the appearances that he did for England, or been in contention to be England captain, or anything like that. So
no. That's it's a shame that is how it is, but
that's how it. I mean, it'll be the same, like you say. It'll be the same for you at Norwich because we're both in similar boats as fans. Where if you get a young talent coming through, you're looking at him going, he's unbelievable. He is very good, but then you're also looking in the back of your mind, thinking, well, how long have we got of him? When's he actually going to when's a big club going to come in and snap him up?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, we've been fortunate. Well, I don't know if we've been fortunate enough, but our youth team has never really been utilised as much as it should do. I mean, we won the FA Youth Cup 3 or 4 years back, and out of all the players that were there, one of them has played about 20-30 games this year, and the other one's been on the bench. Other than that, everyone else has been released.
I mean, there's
no our academy is at a very, very good level. It's in the category 1. It's got all the setup that it needs to be. But when you are in that Championship, Premier League, managers aren't going to give any of your youth players a chance because their job is on the line, and they can't afford for likes of Joshua Murphy to have to have a bad game,
or to make a mistake, a mistake that's going to cost you 3 points. That again, like you say, might see you sacked.
Yeah,
it's. Another thing that talking about the lack of use of the youth. There's I have a really good friend who's still at Sunderland. His name is Michael Ledger. He's a centre back, and this season he was on the bench against Liverpool in the Premier League. It never came. I mean, Gilabodji got injured with like 2 minutes left to go. He never came on. But the next game after that was the Burnley game in the FA Cup that I previously spoke about.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there thinking. I remember talking. I was thinking, right, well, this is where he's going to play him. He's going to bring him in now. He's just had him on the bench for a Premier League game. He's going to play him in the FA Cup against Premier League opposition to see, well, if I do need to rely on him, is he good enough? Can I bring him on? And then he didn't even make the squad. And I was like, I don't understand how you can put these youth players on the bench in the Premier League and then not go and actually let them have a taste of that experience in the FA Cup if you're not that bothered about it, which he obviously wasn't.
When was that Liverpool game?
That was in January. It was
that Moyes' way of saying, I've got no other options here. I've got youth players who are having to come on the bench for a Premier League game. Was that his way of saying to the board, look, you need to do something?
possibly it was a way of trying to be like, look at who I'm bringing these youth players in on the bench. I need some funding. I need something. But a game at the same level. So
I get where you're coming from.
He then requested a loan. He requested to go out on loan because he was like, well, if I'm not going to make appearances even in the first team, I don't just want to be playing the under-23s league. I want to be getting, that professional experience.
Yeah.
And Sunderland held on the loan, tried to organise a loan with him to Hartlepool at the end of January.
Right, yeah.
And then that fell through because the funds weren't there for something to do with his wages. So now he's playing in Norway. He's out on loan in Norway, playing in the Norwegian First Division. And I just think, if you're looking at one of your best defensive talents in your academy and you're wanting to develop them, why are you going out on loan in Norway where you're going to struggle to keep tracks on them? It's obviously not the. I mean, it is still a reasonable standard. Don't get me wrong. It's a high standard of football, but it just never made sense to me. It never made sense to me the amount, the few players that we send out on loan. We hardly send any players out on loan. And go and look at even at Newcastle, Adam Armstrong, who's been sent out on loan all over the place since he turned old enough to go.
Yeah.
And you think, well, of course, it's just developing him. It's giving him that development. We sent one of the few players we did send out on loan to a lot of places. Jordan Pickford worked his way up through the Football League out on loan, and then look how he's developed.
Yeah, that's
but
it.
We're happy to sit players now under 23 squad, have a successful under 23s team, and then when it comes to the time to have to make that jump to the big time and you're playing in the Championship or the Premier League, these players don't have a chance because they're not used to playing up against big physical centre backs or physical players in any kind of aspect. So it's just frustrating.
No, I completely get where you're coming from with that. It's I hope that the aim and the ambition that you're wanting for your club comes off next year, and I hope they finally do sit down and just say, right, this is a project now we're going to set out, and let's do it. I mean, next year, where do you realistically think? Obviously, at the moment, we are still at the end of May. We don't know who the manager is. We don't know who's coming in. We don't know who's coming out.
That's true.
Like for a lot of clubs. But what are your expectations for next year? What do you think is going to happen?
What I had in my head before the Moyes resignation was I was thinking we're going to be a lower. I couldn't have seen us staying in the top half of the Championship, if I'm honest with you, with him in charge, just with the mood around the club and the way that things were. And
right, okay.
A lot of people don't appreciate how difficult the Championship is and how difficult of a league it is until they find themselves in there.
Yeah.
And then it's like they've been thrown at the deep end and they kind of realise like, oh, this isn't just like a kind of off season until we get back into the Premier League.
Aston Villa, classic example.
Of course it is, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Just chucking money at it because that's what you do.
Yeah,
that's not what you do.
But it's not how you, like you say, it's not how you get out of the Championship. So I think realistically, obviously all dependent upon transfers, who we bring in as manager, all the rest of it. I could see us being a team challenging for the playoffs.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a lot of Sunderland fans who I speak to who are going, we're in the Championship, then we'll come back up.
We're going to
the same way Newcastle did, the same what they did. But again, it wasn't an easy ride for Newcastle.
No,
it wasn't. And there was times when it looked like they could have, if Redden and Hull had a good end of the season rather than the poor one that they did, Newcastle could have easily dropped out of the promotion spaces, the same way Brighton could have done.
Yeah.
It's not going to be as easy as people think.
No.
So if we got ourselves into the playoffs, I'd class that as a pretty successful season, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I think our fans were just as guilty of that because we obviously had the promotion, then the relegation, and we got promoted via the playoffs. And everyone expected when we got relegated again, we're going to absolutely walk this league. And the first couple of months, up until the Newcastle game, we were top of the league. Everything was going quite well, and you could actually see where people come from. But then it just, it all fell apart. You are right. People massively underestimate the Championship.
It's huge, massively so. It's. I think people see the gulf in the money and the payments that are made in the Premier League and the Championship and think, it just makes sense that teams with money are going to come back up, but you can't. Again, as we spoke about before, it's not just about buying quality for the Championship. It's about buying Championship players who are physical and who who understand the dark arts of the game a little bit more, who are willing to do something a little bit naughty off the ball to be able to, stop a player making a run or those kind of things, which you can't buy those players for 30 million.
No, you can't.
They're the type of, it's a seasoned professionals. You need a mix of seasoned professionals and young talent, I guess. You need to find the right balance to come out of the Championship. Yeah,
it's not going to be easy next year. No, it's not going to be easy for a lot of teams next year.
Oh, not at all.
I mean, if you're looking at somebody like Burton Albion, and they're looking up at the table and they're seeing some of the teams, I mean, especially obviously the ones that have come down now, the teams that are still in here, the likes of the Villas who have been struggling in mid-table. Can you imagine how they're feeling at the moment?
Of course, it must be.
They must be bricking themselves for next year.
It must be. It's crazy, but again, the issue that you have is that teams like Burton Albion can turn over Sunderlands and Aston Villas and Hulls and Middlesbroughs, and if you go into games like that with the mentality of, I'm a Premier League footballer who's just got this season in the Championship and I've got to go to Burton Albion and play in front of like 10,000 fans, and it's like if teams go there with that sort of mentality of they're gonna get beat, they're gonna get turned over.
Yeah.
Because the difference is with a side like Burton Albion, who are the minnows of the league, basically, they're going to be hungry every single game.
Yeah.
Because you don't even have to give them a team talk. You walk in that dressing room and go, hey, everyone expects us to get beat today, by the way. Yeah. And that's all you need as a player, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
And they play without pressure, because what's the worst that happens? We go down. Oh, well, everyone expects that.
Yeah.
So it's...
Yeah, like they said, it's the worry with the Championship, that there are clubs like that who will punish you.
Do you know what I think the most frustrating thing, and you'll probably agree with this, not the Championship, but if you actually look at the Premier League at the moment and you take the top 7 away from that league, it's so annoying when you can't crack it.
Of course it is.
The standard of the bottom half of the Premier League is so bad.
Yeah, it really is.
It's so bad. And when I look at, again, the first time we got promoted, we were promoted with Swansea and I think it was Watford.
Yeah.
And you look at both those teams now. I mean, granted, Swansea have struggled a bit this season.
Yeah.
And then you look at the teams like the Southamptons, the Stokes, now Burnleys, etc.
Yeah.
You just look at them and you think, well, how have they been able to do it and we can't? And it's just, it's so frustrating.
It's one thing to constantly look at, because, again, you'll be the same way as me as a fan. As when you're in the Premier League, you basically take out Chelsea, Arsenal, the 2 Manchesters, Tottenham, all of that top 6 or 7, and you go, right, well, they're not important. And you kind of look at 8th place as your first place, and you're like, this is our league. From like 8th through down to 20th, this is our league.
Yeah.
And like you say, when you find your club can't even break your league, your little section of the Premiership, if that's what you want to call it, it's such a frustrating thing. Burnley haven't spent masses of money or done anything like that. What Burnley did is they got Sean Dyche in charge, and they were happy for Sean Dyche to take them down.
Yeah.
They didn't sack him, They went, look, take us down. That's fine, but he was constantly building that squad and building that group of players, and turned Turf Moor into an absolute fortress where even teams in that top 7 that we were just talking about were scared to go.
Yeah.
Because they were that good at home.
Yeah.
But he was given the chance and the opportunity. It wasn't like, all right, okay, we're in 17th, let's just get rid of him. Yeah. Like, we might go down. So you've got to respect Burnley for the way that they've done it, definitely.
And I think if you look at both of our teams, for a fan coming to both our clubs, it's not intimidating places to come anymore.
Oh no, not at all.
It's not. I mean, people come to Carrow Road and it's a lovely family atmosphere and everyone's nice to each other, and it's just, there's nothing intimidating about the atmosphere. It's just,
I wouldn't say so much with that at Sunderland. I'd say that it is still the atmosphere that the fans have is still quite a hostile one, but the performance of the players on the pitch is it doesn't strike any type of fear in the teams.
No.
So but I know what you're saying about Carrow Road. I've heard a few like a little bit more of the hardcore Norwich fans, if you want to call them that, talk about why are we, like you say, all just
happy clappy. There was a great one of a Liverpool lad, born and bred in Liverpool, talking about some of the people who he sees at the game, and
Yeah.
It's like we're getting beat 2-0, and these people are like taking selfies and texting and doing things, and you think, is that passion still there? And it's about getting that balance of, all right, we want young kids and families to come to football and enjoy themselves and not feel kind of scared or worried about what's going on, but you also still want to see that passion and that desire and that pain when you lose, and the absolute, like, the feeling of overwhelming emotion and all the rest of it, because that's football.
Yeah,
that's exactly what it is.
That's it. So let's wrap this up on a high. Let's wrap this up on something positive. As a Sunderland fan, you've obviously supported them for a long time. I think you briefly touched upon it, but what was your best moment being a Sunderland fan?
100% the moment I mentioned before. The best moment as a Sunderland fan for me was in the League Cup semi-final down at Manchester. After the first leg, going into the second leg, and taking Manchester to extra time. But obviously the ruling in the League Cup is that away goals come into effect after extra time.
Right.
So if we hadn't scored in that extra time, we would have gone out. And I remember being sat behind the goal with like the 9,000 Sunderland fans that had travelled down, making so much noise, being so loud, and Phil Bardsley unleashing the tamest shot I think I've ever seen, that David De Gea spilt into the back of the net.
Yeah.
And just that feeling, that emotion right then at that point was incredible. Like, I was on such a high, such a buzz, and then for 3 minutes later for Chicharito to go down the other end and score. And there was a Sunderland fan in front of me. He must have been about mid-20s, 25, 26. I just remember him turning around and he just went, "I don't believe it," and just broke down crying. And all of us in the Sunderland end just couldn't believe it. And then obviously Stephen Fletcher missed his penalty, and you're thinking, oh, it's going to happen. And then the way Mannone was played, we played that whole game, but then in the penalty shootout as well. And when we won that penalty shootout, that's the best feeling, not even just in football, I think, but in terms of all the emotion that was just built up. Yeah. It wasn't like we went down there and sat 11 men behind the goal, for 90 minutes and hung on. We went down there, played, and it was such a roller coaster of emotions, of being in a position where we're going to get knocked out 2 or 3 times, to then, we're going through, we're going to win, and then having that taken back off you to eventually come out with the win was just incredible. Absolutely incredible feeling. And again, by the same fold, in the final, when Fabio Borini scored after 9 minutes and we're 1-0 up against Man City at Wembley, and you're going like, this isn't happening, it can't be happening, it's not real, like,
no,
are we going to win something? What, like? And obviously it never happened like that. And City, to be fair, we didn't disgrace ourselves that day, and City were just a quality above. Players like Yaya Toure and David Silva were just obviously too good for us. But 100%, if you ask me, my best moment as a Sunderland fan, it is that night in Manchester, because I remember everything. The journey down, the way there's like stupid things that happened. Like, as I said, we'd bunked off school. We'd gone to school on the morning and we left at lunchtime. Yeah. And I remember having all of my gear for the Sunderland game in my bag. So we got through to Sunderland to get the bus down, and I hadn't put my Sunderland shirt in. And I was going, oh, what? Like, how am I not? So I had to go to the Sunderland shop and buy myself another Sunderland shirt, because I remember thinking, I can't be here in the semi-final and not have my shirt on and not be supporting my club like that. And everything, all the details, the journey down, everything that happened, I remember it all like it was yesterday, and it was nearly 4 years ago now, which is just crazy. Yeah. But definitely, that's the best moment I've had as a football fan.
Fantastic. That's I think that's a nice moment to leave it on. You've got that Sunderland fans to remember, and just think those moments can happen again, and they will happen again. It's just
hopefully. Whether or not it's in my lifetime, that's the question.
It will. We've got to believe. Otherwise, there's
no point, is there?
There's no point turning up. But mate, thank you very much for coming on.
No problem at all, mate.
It's nice to share my experiences with someone who's on a similar sort of level.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Someone who understands those frustrations, because when you talk to, again, obviously, like in your last episode, talking to a United fan, they don't understand the same frustrations and pain that we do. Don't get me wrong, obviously they do still have frustrations with the club and the way things are at the minute, but just not on the same level, you know.
No, it's I mean, I love Footy Gamer. I watch a lot of his content, and I'm in and out of his streams, and I respect him. But when he's there going, Rooney's not good enough, I'm just thinking, oh please, mate, please.
Yeah, please, I'd take him in a heartbeat.
Rooney would be our captain. He'd be a legend. He'd be an ambassador. We'd make him our chairman. He'd be the statue outside.
Whatever he wanted.
Yeah, he could literally just do whatever he wanted at our club. But as I said, it's been nice chatting to someone who's on a similar level, who's going through the same sort of emotions as what I am, because there are a lot of clubs like us who are in that bracket, and I think,
of course there are. A lot more than are in that top bracket.
Oh yeah, 100%. But it's been great, and I other than obviously Norwich, I think if it was a Sunderland Norwich 1 and 2 going up next year, because
I wouldn't complain at all.
Because for me, I want Sunderland back in the Premier League, because I want the Newcastle Sunderland derby back on my TV.
Oh yeah, and I want that back in again. When we were talking about the best moments, some of the best moments I can remember have been at those games, because it's especially over the last few years when we've dominated it. Yeah. When Fabio Borini smashed that ball in the top corner, or I was sat right behind Jermaine Defoe's volley when we were 1-0, and I can remember that hitting the back of the net, and me and the other guy who I go to all the Sunderland games with, for 3 or 4 seconds, didn't even celebrate. We just looked at each other and we were like, did that just happen? Has he actually just done that? And then just went mental. When Borini scored his goal, actually, just a quick little bit to add at the end, when Borini scored his goal, there was 4 of us who got to the game together, and obviously the whole place just erupted, went absolutely mental. And after everything had calmed down, I remember looking back round, and one of the lads was about 7 rows down in front of me. Another one was across to the right-hand side in a different block. And we'd all just been spread out across about the space of about 100 or so seats. We'd just gone that crazy when the goal went in. And that's what football's about for me, It's that emotion. It brings out of you. It's brilliant.
But like I said, me, Sunderland, I feel like I'm part of it now.
You're there. I feel like there's a little. You've taken an ambassadorial role since Norwich hand them out so much. I'll get someone to hand you one out.
I feel like I've adopted Sunderland now as another club. But as I said, it's been brilliant. Thank you very much for coming on, mate. I appreciate it.
Really enjoyed myself.
Sunderland fans, hit the like, hit the like button. Anybody
smash that like button.
Yeah, please.
Make sure you subscribe as well, everyone. All Sunderland fans listening as well. Great channel, great content, consistently great content as well. So
you're talking about yourself, yeah? You can't be talking about me.
It really is, but really good content. Thanks a lot for letting us come on. Everyone, make sure you hit like, hit subscribe to both our channels.
Definitely. And a point of ending this on, the morning that we're recording this is obviously the night after the horrible incident in Manchester, and I think I speak on behalf of both of us when I say that all of our thoughts, prayers, whatever.
Of course, 100% with all the families and everyone who's lost someone down there. It's a terrible, terrible thing, and really I'm sorry for everyone who was unfortunate enough to be involved.
Yeah, and as I said, it's at points like this where everyone needs to come together. So all thoughts and prayers for everyone over there. So I wish all the families as much support as possible. But thank you very much for taking the time to listen to the podcast, and until we see each other next time, as always, adios.